was my first and last mistake. I'm blue without your face. But what can I do? 'Cause I'm just a sinking ship, and you're just a pair of lips that I've lost in the moment. All I want is for you to come back. Now I'm caught in the middle of life, and I need.
Greetings, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Red Pill Diaries. And I'm glad to have my friend and sometime co-host on the show, Carl Zal, is back with us. Carl, how's it going?
How are you, Rishi? Long time no see. It's great to be
I'm
back.
pretty good. Carl, so many things have transpired. I was looking at what took place with the Iranian-Israeli situation, and now that there's a quote-unquote ceasefire, they are nominating Trump for the Nobel Peace Prize, which is crazy because he is one of the ones who actually started the conflict. So, in this crazy world of bizarro politics, what do you think about that, Carl?
Well, I mean, remember Obama, who actually got a Nobel Peace Prize before he even started the job. So, I mean, Nobel Peace Prize is a joke anyway. And by the way, he said nothing. Obama was like radio silence throughout the whole thing. He didn't say anything. Like going to war against Iran is deeply unpopular in America. I don't know anyone I know that want to die for Israel. Yet the Democratic establishment, Kamala Harris, Obama, Hillary, none of them spoke up. None of them spoke up. I mean, like they organized a No Kings protest, right? And guess what? There's no placards about no war with Iran. Almost like that's a non-issue. I mean, this is what the Democrats do. I mean, this is why they're destined to lose. Some people say they hate every war except the current one, right? they hate every war except the current one we got going. And so and because these guys are all depending on the same donors to funding their own campaign, because they know if they speak up against Israel, they're going to get cut off. So they keep quiet. They're, the same people. There are people saying, oh, like, if Kamala was president, you'll be different. No, you wouldn't. Kamala is fully on the side of Israel. What are you talking about? And so it doesn't matter. We have a uniparty. But the ceasefire, I think the ceasefire is interesting because the Israeli asked for it. Israel actually approached Trump to say, hey, help us out. And originally, they want Trump to go to the bad, to actually go to war against Iran. But that's not going to happen because, this, first of all, the thing they wanted to do, which is regime change in Iran, will be impossible. And especially without a ground invasion. And they can't do a ground invasion today. Back in 2003, the U.S. Army still have enough army transport ships that allow them to transport 170,000 troops to Middle East. Well, guess what? They scrapped those ships. They don't have them anymore. So they don't even have the capability to ship the troops over, even if they want to. And that was never in the cards. I mean, this is the whole Iraq business was deeply unpopular, even though for days we have been bombarded by legacy media about why we need to go to war against Iran and why we need to liberate Iranian women. So we'll liberate Iranian women by bombing them, right, and killing their families. So the Israel wanted ceasefire because they're losing. They're losing. People are saying like, no, Carl, Israel is clearly winning the war. They're look at the numbers. They're destroying more. They took out the Iranian top leadership. This is not how war is won. War is not won by by the numbers. The war is won is when it comes down to it, is which side can. And if it's like if you're Muhammad Ali, and you can take most pain, you're gonna stay in the fight. You're gonna win in the end, and that's how the Viet Cong won against the United States. It's not about the numbers, and not about the numbers of people killed or number of hard work getting destroyed. No, because the Vietnamese knew they could take the pain. Americans can't, because that was not an issue existential for America. Eventually, the U.S. will have to give up, and this is the difference between Israel and Iran. Israel, they have been, launching their aggression with impunity for years, but this is the first time they're getting bombed in downtown Tel Aviv. They're getting their lights switched off by Haifa by Iranian missiles, and they can't keep up because we already know it's reported in Washington Post, Wall Street Journal. The Israelis are running out of the interceptor missiles for their Iron Dome system or the American installed THAAD system. I mean, Israel had probably one of the world's most expensive layer missile defenses. When the Iranian missiles come in, first you have all the Jordanians, doing their lackeys work, scrambling their jet, trying to shoot down all the Iranian drones and missiles in the Jordanian airspace. The Iranian missiles made through that, and they have to deal with American THAAD system. And if they made through that, they have to deal with the Iron Dome system. And if they made through that, there's still American navies parked on the eastern side of the Mediterranean use their ship anti-missile systems to try to shoot them down. And so what we have known after 12 days is, yeah, Iranian missiles are making through. And this is because no matter what kind of anti-missile shield you have, you can always overwhelm it with enough missiles. And because the whole physics, you're using bullets to shoot down bullets. What if the other side just decide to rain down bullets from the sky? You will be overwhelmed. And Iran has like tens of thousands of missiles stored that they've been building up their arsenal for the last for many decades. And this is why the first initial batches of missiles Iran sent over, they were older missiles. They were missiles that have been sitting in their arsenal for like 20, 30 years. So now they dust them off and send them over, and their design is drawing down all those Israeli air defenses. And we saw that those air defenses in Israel getting increasingly ineffective as time wore on, because first Iran was sending over like 400 missiles, 200 missiles, and toward the end they were sending over like 40 missiles, 10 missiles, and most of them are still hitting because Israel is running out of interceptor missiles, and they have a serious supply issue because Israel is being supplied by United States, and I have I saw video was published by all the pro-Israel propaganda site. It shows the Israeli F-16 shooting down a Iranian Shahed 139 drone over Syrian airspace. I'm like, okay, that Shahed drone cost about somewhere between $20,000 to $40,000. That Python missile costs about $400,000, right? I mean, like, how is that winning? And people are saying, but Israel, don't worry about that because it's not their money. American tax, United Uncle Sam is sending the money, and the U.S. can always print. Well, that is true. U.S. can print money as much as they want, but can they print missile productions? Because U.S. has been so financialized. They can always type in a digital zero to create more dollars, but where's the industrial capacity? All the industrial capacity had been shipped to East Asia since 1970s. It's China that's holding all the industrial capacity right now. And guess what? What China has? China has a stranglehold on the critical mineral supply. China processes about 90% of the world's rare earth minerals, and they make them into heat-resistant magnets, which is used in missiles. And China has placed a ban on the rare earth. They placed export control on rare earth minerals since last year. This is in response to the U.S. chip ban and increasing sanction on China. And this is what got Trump really upset last month. That's why they sent over Scott Bessent and Nutlick, Commerce Secretary Nutlick. I call him Nutlick because that's what he is. He always lick Trump's nuts. And so these guys, they went there to convince China. Okay, let's sit back a little bit. So China said, okay, we'll relax our export control by granting export license for those rare earth and rare earth magnets to 6 American car makers for 6 months. So right now, the export control is still in place, which means any American company they want to get access rare earth mineral from China, they have to fill out the application and say, "Dear sir, please can I have some rare earth mineral exports from China?" And the Chinese Commerce Ministry will look at it. It's like, okay, maybe you can have some for 6 months, but they never remove the sanction against Lockheed Martin and all the American defense industry. So that means the more missiles they use up, the less they have in their arsenal, and they're gonna have a problem replacing them because they're not getting their hands on the Sumerians they needed from China. And it's they can't just dig it up from the earth either. Well, first of all, opening up a new mine will take 4 years. But even if they do, guess what? China only produce 60% of. They only mine about 60% of the rare earth. So, however, China dominate the processing side, actually refining the rare earth into heat resistance magnet. All that technology, all the machine tool is Chinese right now. So all the rare earth they dig up in America currently, they're shipping them to China to process to make them into magnets. And so even if they want to start a domestic industry in America making those magnets themselves, guess what? They're going to have to import Chinese machine tools. They need Chinese technology. And Trump just slapped a huge tariff on all of that, by the way. And it's also up to the Chinese Commerce Ministry whether they're going to approve those machine tools getting sent to United States. So they're going to have, they already face a depletion problem. We know this because Pentagon have sounded an alarm about depletion of their missile arsenals because they have been sending massive amount over to Ukraine and later to Israel. So now this is the real reason Israel is suing for peace, because their missile interceptor is running out in 2 weeks, and after that their sky is wide open. Whereas even though Israel have air superiority, with American support, because American are the Israeli F-35 cannot make the flight from Israel to Iran without refueling, and we know the refueling tankers they're provided by the U.S. military. So U.S. has been complicit in the strike the whole time, and so what has Israel accomplished? Did they destroy Iranians' nuclear program? No. Did they effect a regime change? No. So right now they're suing for peace because they want to take a break so they can, because they're not winning this, and this is why Israel Defense Ministry just put out a statement and said, our war with Iran is not over, but we need to focus on Gaza right now. Right? I mean, like they're deciding to focus on core competency, which is genocide. It's easier to massacre defenseless women and children, and so this is a win for Iran, because Iran has shown that it will inflict pain that's unacceptable and unsustainable on the Israeli side, because the size, the difference between Israel and Iran. Iran is a huge country with 92 million people. Iran can absorb the pain, and Iranian people have been living under Western sanction for decades. They are built to withstand pain, whereas Israelis they have been partying right next to freaking Gaza. They have been really literally partying right next to the world's largest open air prison. And what happens when their normal life gets interrupted, right? All these Israelis, they all have multiple passports. They say, oh, we have nowhere to go. If we don't have Israel, we don't have nowhere to go. Nah, you have plenty of places to go. You have American passport, French passport, Polish passport. And when the shit hits the fan, those people will get the hell out. And we saw that. Israel was actually trying to prevent settlers from leaving. So how can you sustain a settler colony if you're running out of settlers, or if your settlers are not staying? That's why Israel saw the writing on the wall, and they knew it's not sustainable. That's why they wanted this ceasefire. For Iranian side, they clearly they fired the last shot. They are the ones who dictate the timing of the ceasefire. They made sure they got in their last shot at Israel. For Iranian side, they will probably take this time to rebuild their air defense system. So that's one of the weakness that the Israeli strike has exposed, is that Iran, they need to work on their air defense system, and now they can take a breather to rebuild all the missile launchers that has been destroyed on the western part of Iran. And so they can be more effective next time. And as for Trump, Trump, I called Trump's behavior, by the way. Like last week, I was on a show with Jamar Thomas. I said the most likely scenario is Trump is going to do some kind of symbolic strike, and then he will claim victory. He will say mission accomplished. He will say, I'm the great peacemaker by taking out Iran's nuclear program, and please give me Nobel Peace Prize. I mean, it's pretty much unfolded. I mean, I'm going to claim that one because I called it. Because this is Trump. Trump is unpredictable, but he's very predictable in his unpredictable ways. He always does that. He will always claim credit, claim victory, and all these his MAGA followers. It's a big cult. They will follow him no matter whatever he says. It's like where the cult leader says, well, actually, the doomsday is not today, but Wednesday next week, and all the cult followers will believe that. And same thing with Trump. They will go along with whatever he says. So Trump suffers no penalty by switching his position, but he also realized it would be immensely unpopular to start an actual war, like a ground war with Iran. This is why he took the easy way out, do the symbolic strike on the nuclear facility, which did nothing, because guess what? United States actually communicated Iran days in advance. We're gonna do this, don't retaliate. We're gonna do this thing, because we had to do. And so he gave Iran plenty of time to prepare. And the from the satellite images we saw, they left like 6 craters, which obviously was not enough to penetrate the depth to the Iranian Fordo enrichment plant, because that thing was buried at least 80 meters underground. It's basically built underneath a mountain. It's the same principle how NORAD was built in North America. It's built to withstand nuclear blast. So your conventional bomb is just not powerful enough to penetrate that. And they say, oh, but what if we use multiple bunker busters, one on top of another? Well, did you see how they play? It was like 6 craters right next to each other. So they're not adding on to each other. They're just making more craters. And it's a symbolic strike. And this is why Israel did a follow-up strike. If Trump took out Iran's nuclear facility, why did Israel have to do a follow-up strike? Right. What are they striking, right? So this Iran's nuclear program was not stopped, and we know Iran now have uranium enriched up to 60%. They have been holding off because it was a political decision made at the top that they didn't want to go full nuclear, because they wanted to use as a negotiation chip to negotiate away the Western sanction on the country, which is understandable, respectable, because they want Iranian people to have normal lives. But the lesson from this latest fiasco is you cannot trust the West. in any kind of negotiation. They didn't negotiate in a good faith. In fact, the Israeli media said the initial negotiation by Trump was actually they set Iran up to lull them into a false sense of security while Israel did their strike. So U.S. was complicit from the very beginning, and they did not, and Israel did not want negotiation at all. They killed all the negotiators, Iranian negotiator. You keep on having all these stupid talking heads from Europe, all the American vassals saying, "Oh, we demand Iran return to the negotiation table." Iran never left the table. The table got bombed by Israel. They took out all the negotiators because they don't want no deal. And we would not be in this situation today if Trump hasn't tore up the nuclear agreement back in his first term, because Obama years they actually negotiated a deal with Iran where Iran will give up all its nuclear material. Well, because the hardest part of making a bomb is not the technology. We know about how to make a bomb since 1950s, since 1940s, 1950s, and today people can probably find how to make a bomb, download the plan from the internet. But the hardest part is getting the material to build a bomb, especially the nuclear material, and especially for like a atomic bomb, you need uranium or plutonium, right? The bomb dropped in Nagasaki and Hiroshima. One is a uranium bomb, one is a plutonium bomb. So the first nuclear deal that U.S. signed with Iran said, okay, Iran will send all the uranium to France and have France to process these uranium into fuel rods and then supply them to Iran for use in their civilian nuclear reactor. And after they've been used up and the plutonium was produced, all the plutonium were to be removed and sent to Russia, and Russia would dispose of nuclear waste. Under that deal, Iran would have no nuclear material to build the bomb with. But guess what? Trump tore up that agreement. So that allowed Iran to retain those uranium and continually to refine them to up to 60%, up to the limit, they were still well under the limit that were allowed under IAEA. But now they are a nuclear threshold state, which means they may not have a nuclear bomb, but with some time and a little bit of work, they can get there. But they made a strategic decision not to go nuclear because they thought they could use that as a bargain chip with the West to make the West lift the sanction on them. But now, after this whole thing, I think it's going to be a matter of time before Iran goes for nuclear, because the choice is obvious. You see, the only reason U.S. and Israel bomb Iran is because Iran doesn't have a nuclear weapon, doesn't have a nuclear bomb. And you don't see them making the same kind of threat against North Korea. Nobody's crazy enough to say we're gonna bomb Pyongyang. We're gonna take out Kim Jong-un. Nobody says that because they know that would be crazy. And so you have Gaddafi and Saddam who voluntarily gave up their nuclear program to improve their ties with the West, and where are they now? And then you have North Korea. Kim Jong-un is still, there's no war touching his country. And so, I mean, I think if Iran really makes the decision to go full nuclear, I think that can happen quickly, because I was reading there's an article from the Bulletin for Atomic Scientists, and they compare. So supposedly, back in 2018, Israel has hijacked. They were able to hack into the Iran nuclear archive. They saw the specification what Iran would like to have if they go nuclear. Is that Iran would like to have like about 10 bombs that has a yield about 20 kilotons, and the dimension and everything make them similar to kind of the Chinese atomic bomb that was first exploded in the 1960s. So for the Chinese, if you look at the Chinese experience making the atomic bomb, They had everything ready to go in 1963, just waiting for the material to be ready, all the enriched uranium and the plutonium to be ready. So by 1964, when the decision was made, they were able to do that, like do the test explosion in a couple of weeks, in a few weeks. So and that was 1960s. Today Iran has much more resources, much more technology at their disposal. If they really wanted to, you wouldn't take them more than a year to get that done. And I think it's just a matter of time when they make that decision to go full nuclear at this point.
Some of the people that Israel thought they killed in the first strike are now showing up. One of the heads of I think the Navy, he was hurt bad. He was an advisor to the Ayatollah, and he is now recovering. And just today, the head of the Quds force, whom they said they killed, was celebrating with the people. It's a video of him out in Tehran with the people celebrating the victory over over Israel. Now, with that said, Carl, I'm going to play a clip here, and after that, I want us to follow it up, because anybody in their right mind would not, after you find out that the IAEA was passing over all of this information to Israel and the United States, so that professionals, people of learned caliber of the universities were targeted and assassinated, plus the high officials in the RDC. Why would you then go back to a negotiating with them to give them more leverage and to give them more information on the new scientists that have taken their place and the new leadership in the IRGC? And I just want to play this, and on the other side, we'll come back and address that.
I consider Mr. Grossi an Israeli agent. His appointment to this post was orchestrated by the Americans and supported, it is claimed, by the Zionist regime for its own specific goals. At the beginning of his tenure, in his early days in office, he went on a trip to Israel without telling the Israelis, you should join the NPT, make commitments to allow the agency to monitor your activities. He didn't say any of these things. Alongside all the threats Israel made in the last year or two to attack Iran's nuclear facilities, Mr. Grossi never seriously opposed these Zionist actions. My personal opinion is that Trump's claim of negotiations and his letter was a ploy to prepare Israel for attack. The final round of negotiations was supposed to take place 2 days later. They presented a plan. We were going to present ours on Sunday. Therefore, Trump was aware of the attack. Trump facilitated this attack. The US provided support for these attacks. I believe that the US Central Command War Room and the Israeli War Room held joint meetings for this attack, just as they held joint meetings for the massacre in Gaza. Therefore, in my opinion, there's no room left for negotiations. This is my personal opinion, that the Americans are partners and complicit in the crime that the Israeli regime committed against Iran. They caused damage, they must face the consequences, and they can't get away unscathed. Trump's statements in the last 48 hours indicate that he senses the scent of defeat, meaning he senses that Israel is suffering a serious defeat. When its Ministry of War is hit, when Mossad is hit, when its Amman intelligence agency is hit, it shows that this regime's entire intelligence, security and military system is collapsing. Novotim is the base storing American and Israeli fighter jets, which has been seriously attacked recently and is expected to be continuously attacked. We must protect our rights in the face of this aggression against us. We must destroy key elements of the Zionist regime and avenge the blood of our martyrs and commanders. Then perhaps senior officials of the Islamic Republic will reach a decision to go back to negotiations.
Those of you who may not be familiar with the person he's referring to, Grossi is supposed to be the head of the IAEA, and he is an American stooge. Now, Carl, I wanted to ask you, what sense would it make for Iran to go back into negotiations with America after they know that America used the negotiations in the first place to try to decapitate the leadership of Hezbollah? And remember, because that's why Hezbollah's guard was down, because they just had struck a deal with Hezbollah, and then Israel, America transferred the intelligence and the bombs to kill the leadership of Hezbollah. And they've done it in Gaza, and now they've tried to do it with Iran. What sense does it make to go back into the negotiations with the United States and to also give the IEA access to your scientist information, your RGC information, and for them to be able to inspect your plants?
Well, I mean, they can still go back to negotiating with America, but they shouldn't give IAEA access to their nuclear facility anymore, because obviously IAEA is not an impartial observer in this game. They're fully complicit with U.S. Israel. I mean, there's many reasons to go back to negotiation table. They could be negotiating to buying time. To buy time for Iran to build up its defenses, and they can negotiate while still going nuclear. I mean, there's nothing stopping them to actually pursue their nuclear program while they're actually negotiating. But I agree, they shouldn't give IAEA any more access to Iranian nuclear facility after what IAEA had done. And they need to really kind of start purging all the Israeli spies, because this, it's kind of shocking, how infiltrated they were by the Israeli Mossad. But on the flip side of that is Mossad kind of blow their wad on the first day. They kind of used up all their resources to do the so-called decapitation strike, and what did they gain from that? I mean, Iran was not paralyzed. Iran, again, is a 92 million people country. They have no problem replacing their leadership. And the fact that I was expecting them to launch missiles a lot later, because I thought, okay, they have to now go to the drawing board to figure out which one it would be the target, how to choose those target. No. They responded very quickly. So what that tells me is Iran already have a contingency plan. This is what they will do in case they're attacked by Israel. And all they had to do was just follow the plan. So they were very quickly able to replace those leaders who have been assassinated, who has been incapacitated, and carry forward with their plan. And we saw that working out very well. So replacing the Iranian leaders is not gonna stop Iran. They can just replace it with another crop of leader who may be, younger, more hungry, who may want to take the fight to Israel. And so it didn't work out in Israel's favor. And on the other side, Israel has exposed a lot of their operatives inside the countries by carrying out those strikes. You can only do that once, right? Like those assets are now done. So I think overall, I mean, Iran came out much more much better shape than Israel, because for Israel the pain is also psychological. Like before they thought they could launch attacks against neighboring countries with impunity. Right now they got the taste of their own medicine. They know downtown Tel Aviv can be targeted, and Iran has been very measured and calibrated. What they could have done, what Iran could have done, if they really want to go for the jugular, they could have targeted Israeli a water plant. 80 to 90% of Israeli fresh water come from their water desalination plants, and if those got targeted, no water for Israel. And they could target Israeli nuclear power plant, right? But Iran didn't do that, because they know if they did that, Israel will be on the brink of collapse, and United States would never allow Israel to collapse. They definitely move in a decisive way. So what Iran did was a very calibrated, measured campaign. Make Israel to feel a lot of pain, but not to the point where force Israel imminent collapse that will force the hands of the United States to come in. So instead, what we have is this political theater by Trump to launch this strike against Iranian nuclear facility, which did nothing. and for him to claim victory. And it's all like very orchestrated. We saw what happened. Iran then launched a missile against the U.S. base in Qatar, in Qatar, and this was both sides had been communicating with each other. So, okay, we're going to strike you at this point. You better get your ships or whatever out of the way, and so that happened. And but this, but Trump now can say, this there was tremendous pressure on the Israeli lobby, the United States, for the U.S. to go. And Trump now can also claim, "Oh, I did my thing. I did my thing. I bombed Iran just like you asked me to. I did it. I did it. I claimed victory. Mission accomplished." And washed his hands off.
Mm.
So this is why Israel also wanted to make peace, because they realized, oh shit, U.S. is not fully on board on a full regime change operation on Iran. The Americans don't want to die for us, those bastards, and this is why they chose the ceasefire option. I think what Iran can do now, while they have this ceasefire, is to build up their defense system. One of the problem with the Iranian air defense is, they don't really have they don't really have an air force. They have those like old ass F-14s that Iranian Shah purchased from United States back before 1979 Islamic Revolution, and of course U.S. and Israel made like all these big deal out of the satellite images of Israel bombing those planes. I mean, those planes are not going to do anything anyway. I mean, like, this is 2025. So what Iran now need to do is to rebuild its air force. They need to rebuild its air defenses. And I think this is something, if they want to, they can work very closely with China on.
Yeah.
Because China can provide very cheap and very effective fighter planes. As Pakistan has shown, right? Pakistan got them the J-10Cs. China was ready to export them. There was a talk about Egypt acquiring them. So I mean, I'm sure. And Iran had been under the international arms embargo for decades, but that embargo expired last year. So this is now Iran can go to China and Russia, buy more arms. And originally, I think there were deals announced that they were going to buy the Russian S-300s, even S-400, and then they're going to buy the Russian Su-35. But the deal was like, I think, either because Russia was distracted by the Ukraine war, or like for whatever reason they haven't been delivered, to Iran. So Iran didn't receive those while they were facing the Israeli strike. That's why they were so vulnerable. Their airspace was wide open. So I think that's one of the reasons the Iranian delegate immediately went to Moscow after this. They have been coordinating with Putin. They're probably talking about how can we get those delivery fast track to Iran. In the meantime, if Russia is being held up by maybe because their focus is on Ukraine war right now, and maybe some production bottleneck. China faced no such problem. China has, like as a U.S. legacy media says, China has overcapacity, right? They have overcapacity in everything. So they can very quickly ramp up the air force by purchasing Chinese J-10Cs, and it has shown effective with the and they can buy the Chinese air defense.
Carl, your mic is muffled.
Oh, okay. How about now? Is this better? Okay. I was moving too far away from my mic. Is this better now? Okay.
Yes.
So I think that's a opportunity if they haven't done it already. And another thing is you can't rely on GPS or Starlink, so this is another area where Iran can work with China to leverage China's BeiDou system. China built, China also, they don't rely on GPS. They build their own satellite constellation, the BeiDou system. for navigation, and that will be crucial for targeting and getting the satellite intelligence and stuff like that. These are like concrete steps that Iran can take in the meantime to work with China and Russia to buff up their air defense and to rebuild their air force. And you know, the J-10C is more than a match for Israeli F-16s, and now the Chinese J-35s just enter production. So and there was already talks of Pakistan looking to acquire them. I'm sure China would also, you know, if they're going to export it to Pakistan, I'm sure they will have no problem exporting them to Iran. And the J-35s will be more than a match for Israeli F-35s. Now that's what I would like to see. I would like to see J-35 shooting those F-35 out of the sky, and then, you know, then I will like to see all the copians that flow from the Twitter. It's like, oh my God, the Chinese copycat shut down our F-35. No, oh now the Timbuk F-35 shoot down our F-35. You know, like yeah. I think that's the best course for Iran right now.
I think because there are little constraints on China, and China is willing for technology transfers, I think that would probably be the best route to go for Iran, because Iran prides itself on taking technology and then indigenizing it or whatever, and the Chinese doesn't have all those stipulations that the Western nations have on theirs. So I believe even if they could not get the J-10, they could get the J-17 Block 3. That's on par with the F-15s, the F-16s. I think that would help them out, because China could churn those things out real quick for them, and they can be in there. And then they could while they're learning the ins and out of them, the Chinese will build a plant for them for maintenance and all of that stuff. The same as they did for Pakistan. I think when it comes to Russia, I think it may be a while before they deliver stuff, because again, they're dealing with the United States and Armenia. They're dealing with them back in Georgia. They're dealing with them in Ukraine. They're dealing with them in Moldova, Romania, and all of this stuff like that. So I believe that if Iran wanted to utilize this time in the most productive way, I think they should get some off-the-shelf J-10s or J-17s from China and sign a technology transfer deal to them, also to get those new air defense systems that China has. I heard those they in tests they were more efficient than the S-300 plus systems and stuff like that. So I think that would be a good thing for them to do. But Carl, there's been a blackout in the Western world about the severe damage that was inflicted upon Israel. All we saw was what Israel did to Iran, and it was hyped up 100 times over. Now, this is something that came to my mind. When we got a chance to see the destruction that Iran, the little bit of the destruction that they were able to show about what Iran was doing, notice that the death count stayed the same. These buildings, all of these buildings that were being destroyed, they never upped the death count in Israel, and these were intelligence buildings. The Israeli Pentagon, these military bases, and yet Israel is saying they only suffered 24 deaths and 600 injuries, and we saw whole blocks destroyed. So you're telling me that all of those people were gone from those buildings every time that they were hit? Something is not adding up. I think the death toll is higher, the destruction is greater. And why do you think that nobody has challenged the Israeli death toll and the destruction toll that has hit Israel?
Well, I mean, Israel, first of all, they have really clamped down on like displaying social media videos showing the damage, showing the hits. And you know, if they put an edict to stop people doing that, that means it's looking bad. You know, they don't have to do that if it shows no damage. The fact that there's full damage control mode to prohibit anybody from showing these aftermath pictures and videos, that means they know it's bad for the morale, and that's one thing they cannot afford, because that just means more settlers will be spooked from leaving Israel. and that's what they cannot afford as a settler colony. They cannot lose settlers. But I it's these again, in the end, it's not about how much pain you inflict. It's how much pain you can withstand. It's a Muhammad Ali analogy. The Muhammad Ali is the greatest because he can take a lot of punches, and you will not be able to take many of his punches back. And that's how he win. And this is Iran will be able to absorb a lot of blows coming from Israel, but Israel is not, cannot have this long sustained campaign against itself by Iran because their economy is already on the brink of collapse because of their, genocidal campaign in Gaza was draining all the resources. And if people can't even function and have a normal life, forget it. People were gonna, get out and go to North America, go to Europe, where they come from, and Israel will be a shell of its former self. And this is why they are, again, about the ceasefire. How many ceasefire did Israel break? It's like what, 926? I mean, like, so don't expect this ceasefire to hold for long. This is really the time for both sides. They're rebuilding back their capabilities, and Israel, for a chance, they're trying to probably use this time to restock on their missile interceptors, for their Iron Dome, and try to get American to cough up more like THAAD systems. By the way, those THAAD systems, the STAT battery, the launcher plus radar, everything, it costs $1 billion with a B, and each THAAD missile, interceptor missile, costs $12 to $13 million. I mean, Israel was shooting like somewhere around $286 million a night, right, into the sky to stop the Iranian missiles. And again, the dollar amount itself, that may not matter much. It's about the real supply constraint, because like I said, U.S. can print dollars, they can't print missiles, and the reason also why they're so expensive, because U.S. military industrial complex is all about grift. It's about creating bloat, and this is so they can maximize the profit toward the 1% that's a shareholder of these arms dealers, and so they're designed to be expensive, and they're designed to be inefficient. They're not designed to actually to win a war. They're designed to fleece money from everybody to the 1%. That they do very well. I mean, that's a real job of the F-35 program, and so this is why this is why I think there's a real opportunity of cooperation between Iran and China. And I saw somebody said Iran is already on using Beidou system, and I checked. There is a article from Jamestown Foundation, and that said back in 2021, Iran was granted full access to PRC's Beidou satellite system for military purposes. So I mean that means the Beidou system is already helping Iranian missile to find their targets, and then they can keep working on that. They can keep on building upon that relationship. I think that's this is if US won a proxy war, that's not a proxy war US can win, because US cannot win against the production capacity of China.
Right. IXIO says how much for Hermes 9000. According to Google AI overview, it says the Hermes 900 drone emit 9000. Typically costs between 10 and 30 million per unit, but some people say it's upwards of 50 million per unit. So that's a lot of money. that is going down the drain. Now
That's by design. That's a feature, not a bug. That's designed to be expensive, And whereas those Iranian Shahed drones, they're using motorcycle motors, right? Like the same motors that power motorcycles. They can crank those things out, no problem.
I was looking at a clip on Telegram, and I was seeing that in the destruction, you had people crying in Hebrew and saying, "Why is this happening to us?" Tel Aviv and Haifa is looking like Gaza, and I'm like, oh, so long as you can bomb Gaza with impunity, that's okay, and you can reduce that to rubble. And then your government can try to decapitate another government, and when they strike back, that's not okay. What is your thoughts on that?
Well, this is the thing, right? They're crying when the Iranian missile hit a hospital or whatever. It's like, look, you have been doing this in Gaza for a year now, and at this point, nobody is your crying for sympathy is falling on deaf ears because nobody cares. Nobody give a fuck. People. In fact, people are cheering. People are cheering when the Iranian missiles are landing. You saw all those TikTok videos with Iranian missile hitting Haifa and Tel Aviv, and then they play the background music called the Boom Boom Tel Aviv, and people are cheering, and they're getting what they deserve, and I wish for them what they wish for the Palestinians. So they're not going to win any sympathy card. This is why I say Iran has been relatively restrained, because I do believe even if those missiles that hit residential areas, because the Iranian targeting system rather than intentional, because Israel aerial campaign against Iran did do some damage. That means Iran was also using had to rely some older missiles, which is not as accurate. And this is where during the ceasefire now Iran can build up their to restock their arsenals of more advanced missiles, to replace those older missiles.
Okay. In the chat, Brooke Chen says, question for Carl. What do you think about the Golden Dome?
That's another grift, man. It's like Iron Dome, Golden Dome, Diamond Dome. It doesn't matter. Any kind of missile shield system can be overwhelmed with enough missiles. And this is why I thought it was silly when people were saying, oh my God. I saw one Twitter guy, I think like Matt Palmer or whatever, on Twitter. He said, oh my God, we're wasting those precious THAAD missiles that could protect our aircraft carriers against China. I'm like, look, if your THAAD missile can't even protect Israel from Iranian missiles, forget about China. Because China have way more production capacity, they have way more missiles, and they have way more advanced missiles. And China is literally producing. People seen the video, the videos of Chinese missile factories? They're producing missiles in lights off factories, fully automated, run by robots. They can crank out missiles 24/7 nonstop. And guess what? They don't have a supply problem of critical minerals because they already make them. They have all the critical minerals they need to make those missiles. So, whatever Iron Dome, gold dome, aluminum dome, it doesn't matter. When you have enough missiles, it's gonna overwhelm it. And the real purpose of gold dome is, again, it's a grift to suck up more money into this military industrial complex. This is why the U.S. official military budget is now over $1 trillion, right? And the Trump came into the office, said, I'm gonna cut the government grift. I'm gonna cut. Well, guess what? They cut everything to increase the military budget. I mean, it's not even it doesn't even compare to the increase. And this is just the official military budget. We know they spend way more because all the money they send to Ukraine, that's not included part in the military budget. Neither are those ammunitions are sent to Israel. That's not part of the official Pentagon budget, and so the Pentagon itself, it has not been audited for decades now. So nobody actually knows how much they're spending, and but that's what Gold Dome is really designed for. It's just like F-35. It's designed for suck money from everybody else to funnel to 1%. It's not really meant to actually do anything.
I had a clip somewhere, and I can't find it at this moment, but it was Michael Maloof, former Pentagon. He worked in the Pentagon. He said the U.S. military budget, black budget, has been over $1 trillion for the longest. And he said, and whatever the U.S. tells you, their budget is, you multiply that by 2 or 3 times, and so we get a true estimate by doing that, multiplying whatever they tell us by 2 or 3 times. Now, I want to say this, Carl. You and I, we've been talking for a couple years about America eyeing Iran. And the reason we've been saying it is because of it is the underbelly. You and I talked about this a lot. Iran is the underbelly of China, Pakistan, India, and Russia. And it is crucial that the United States brings Iran to yield because they believe that they can interrupt the Belt and Road, and they believe that they can hijack Iran's oil and gas reserves and control that whole area over there, the land, the water, and the skies, to have Russia and China completely surrounded so that they can stop the north-south corridor and have a control over China's economic rise. What do you think about what do you think China was thinking when America bombed the nuclear plants and America and Israel, because both of them did that, tried to decapitate the Iranian leadership because they wanted regime change as to put in a person or people that was friendly and puppets of the West so that they can use them as a battering ram against Russia, but specifically and especially against China.
Well, did you see that the former crown prince of Iran has been getting all kind of media access to all the legacy media? Like he's gonna be installed back as be on the throne. But he notice he's not talking to any actual American officials. He's talking to the talking heads because he is just a distraction. Nobody seriously is trying to install him as a new leader of Iran because there's no serious plans in place for regime change. Like regime change is what US want to do, but there's no practical way to actually carrying it out. Like I say, Iran is not Iraq. Iran is a country of 92 million people. It's much bigger, much more powerful, and the effect of bombing on Iran, it made Iranian people to rally around the flag. You have all these Iranian liberals who normally would be criticizing the government. They're coming out in the streets, women without hijabs, flowing hair, and there's like, we need the bomb. We need the nukes. We need to defend ourselves. So everybody is demanding Iranian government to nuke up. And that's the effect, because Iranian people, they're patriotic people. Even the ones that may have disagreement with their government, they don't want to be bombed. They want to be protected. And so this is the whole Iranian regime change. It's a fantasy. That's all it is. It's a fantasy. And so far, China has. The Chinese Prime Minister, Foreign Minister Wang Yi met with the Iranian Foreign Minister immediately after Israeli strike, and China explicitly condemned Israeli aggression against Iran, and in the release of their talk, it says China fully support Iran's effort to safeguard its sovereignty and territorial integrity. And the thing is, China normally prefers quiet diplomacy, right? But now China is like on very clear terms saying what Israel has done is unacceptable, and it calls the country who's backing Israel to make Israel come come to the path of peace. And the country that's backing Israel, we all know who that is. That's United States. And so China rhetorically, China has already made its position known. What we don't know is what's happening in the background, because that's where China preferred to do its actually carry out its diplomacy, is the quiet diplomacy. That's where we don't know what kind of agreement they have signed with Iran. What military cooperation that they may have, or intelligence sharing they have agreed upon with Iran. But what we do know is that China would not like to see Iran fall, the same way China does not want to see Russia fall. This is why China throw Russia the economic lifeline. They refuse to join on the Western sanctions by maintaining the trade line open. And they're doing the same with Iran. Currently, China buys more than 89% of the Iranian oil export, despite the sanctions. And the way they so because of sanctions, Iran was unable to sell its oil and gas to other countries, but China was still taking them in, and this by alone is kind of keeping the Iranian economy afloat at this moment. And I'm more interested to know. We may find out later, what kind of concrete defense cooperation they have between the two countries. I mean, I said there's many areas to cooperate. There have been examples in the past where China led Iran to to have their license build Chinese weapon platform. I mean, we'll probably see more of that in the future. But by the time we know it, it will already, because they will be ready and to be displayed. But in any case, China would not like to see Iran fail. But the U.S. aggression against Iran also put kind of India in an interesting position, because India has traditionally been very friendly with Iran, but India is also trying to get cozy with Israel and United States. And India has this whole idea of the North-South Corridor project, where it's to link Mumbai with the Chabar port in Iran. But Iran is getting bombed right now, so now India is being put into an awkward place, right? Like Iran is your supposedly friendly country and your supposed ally, and what do you do in such a situation? And it also shows Iranians, where would where you stand on this issue. So I think I mean the people are blaming China and Russia for not not going 100%, not sending military into Iran to help. To that I say, look, Iran got this. Iran is fully capable to deal with Israel on their own. The reason Israel was begging for United States to intervene is because they know they can't take the pain any longer. It's the real question is whether U.S. will launch a full war against Iran. But so far Trump just showed his hand. He's not. No, that's not something he's willing to do. He's more like to do these kind of symbolic airstrikes, just like what he did on his first term against Syria. By the way, back then there was also a lot of pressure on Trump administration to launch strike against Syria. So he just ordered a bunch of Navy ship to fire a bunch of cruise missiles. And again, he claimed, I did my thing. I punished Syria. I am the greatest president. But it actually changed very little facts on the ground back then. And it's just so now in this case, China and Russia didn't have to directly get involved. All they have to do just keep on providing Iran with diplomatic support, but in the back, continue to provide Iran with some material and economic support that Iran need. And so they're going to continue to share intelligence, military technology, and there'll be more weapon system sent to Iran in the future. By the way, the international arms embargo on Iran expired in 2020. So now there's nothing to stop Russia and China to, send more advanced weapons system to Iran anymore. And I expect to see, more such transfers in the future.
And here's a clip along the lines of what you were just saying about when people ask you, why didn't Russia or why didn't China send troops in? So I want to play this clip, and everybody just pay attention. And pay attention at the end what Putin says at the end of it. It's about a 3.5-minute clip. Here we are right here.
And as the war between Iran and Israel escalates, the Russian president has urged both nations to de-escalate, and on speculation of the U.S. getting directly involved in Israel's war against Iran, the Kremlin has said that it would have negative consequences. Earlier in the day, the Russian president held a telephonic conversation with the Chinese president. Both the leaders jointly condemned Israel's action on Iran. In fact, Russia has also warned the U.S. against direct involvement in the Iran war. The Kremlin has urged Israel to immediately halt the air attacks on Bushehr nuclear plant, where Russian experts are currently working. Putin has also offered to mediate in the Israel war, in the Israel-Iran war, and addressing a televised press conference in St. Petersburg, Putin suggested that Moscow could help negotiate a settlement that could allow Tehran to pursue a peaceful atomic program while assuaging the Israeli security concerns. In January, Russia and Iran had signed a comprehensive strategic partnership agreement. But Putin clarified that the agreement does not relate to the defense sphere. He also said that Russia had earlier offered Iran projects in the field of air defense systems, but Tehran showed little interest at that time.
We once offered our Iranian friends to work in the area of air defense systems. The partners did not show much interest at the time, and that was it. As for the agreement you mentioned about strategic partnership, there are no articles related to the defense sphere. That is the second thing. And the third thing is that our Iranian friends do not ask us about it.
And when asked what Russia's reaction would be if Israel were to assassinate Iran's supreme leader, President Putin declined to comment on the possibility of Israel killing Khamenei. President Putin further added that he has had discussions with the US, Iran, Israel, and that Iran's interest in peaceful nuclear energy can be ensured.
I will not go into details now, as there are many. All these details have been discussed with both the Israeli and American sides, and we have sent certain signals to our Iranian friends. Overall, it is possible to ensure Iran's interests in the field of peaceful nuclear energy. At the same time, it is possible to address Israel's concerns regarding its security. In my opinion, such options exist.
And speaking on Iran-Russia collaboration on the Bushehr nuclear power plant, Putin pointed out that over 200 Russian workers are currently employed at the plant in southern Iran that is built by Russia's Rosatom.
Our specialists are working in Bushehr. There are 250 people plus those on business trips. The total number can reach 600, and we are not leaving. Is that not support? Well, Iran hasn't asked us for any other support.
The Bushehr nuclear power plant is Iran's first.
So, I think it took Carl off. Okay, there we are. So, Carl. So Putin just said that Iran didn't ask for assistance. So that for assistance to be rendered, you must be willing to accept the assistance. And second thing is that I think what Russia was saying that I think they were protecting the nuclear facility in Bushehr because they put more Russians in there and said that they weren't leaving. So the Israelis and the U.S. could not bomb that facility, which is one of the most important facilities. And that's why Putin said that we talked to the Israelis and we talked to the Americans and we warned them. So what is your take on that, Carl?
I mean, people
Your mic is out.
Oh, okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes, yes.
Is this better? I was
Yes.
speaking too far from my mic. I'll just hold it closer. People need to understand that the multipolar vision of the BRICS is fundamentally different. The unipolar world that's dominated by United States. In the multipolar world, every country is a sovereign country, sovereign state, whereas U.S. only have vassal states, right? Iran is a sovereign country, and they take their own sovereignty very seriously. And Iran is not a helpless child. Iran can handle themselves vis-a-vis Israel. This is why, it's correct. Iran didn't ask for help because they got this against Israel. They got this. The big question, of course, is America going to step in on Israel's behalf again? Before America has done anything, what's Russia and China gonna do if Iran did not ask for help, right? And I'm sure there are things going on in the background, like you mentioned. I'm sure Russia has passed a warning to U.S. and Israel to make sure do not endanger the life of those Russian engineers. And some of these things not to be always need to be said in public. And Russia and China will support Iran regardless. It doesn't mean they need to steam their aircraft carriers into the Persian Gulf and to spark off a World War III. There's no need for that. I mean, and this is what Putin is saying is actually an echo of what has been said by Iranian defense officials on their side. They have repeatedly said their aim is to defend Iranian sovereignty, and that means they try to rely on themselves as much as they can. They want to move away from the era when, like during the Shah's reign, Iran imported everything Western, from American and Europe for its defense needs. They are working on indigenization and self-reliance for their military industry, and this is where whenever they have a deal with Iran, with Russia or China, for example, they try to ask for one, technology transfer, and two, to allow to have indigenous production, to have them produce in Iran. That's important for them, and I think this is what people need to understand. This is very serious issue for Iran. They're not vassals of China or Russia. They're an independent country, and they're a very proud nation, and they can handle it on their own. A lot of people are, they're too much doomers because they are bought into this kind of notion of United States as this indestructible Captain America that's just gonna crush all opposition under its feet. No, it's not like that. U.S. is also a country that works under serious resource and supply constraint. Right now, U.S. actually do not have the capability to wage a two-front war, and a lot of these cracks of the restraint and resource constraint is already showing. It already showed when U.S. waged an aerial campaign against Yemen. And they went up. The U.S. Navy, according to the U.S. naval commander, that we engaged in the most intense naval fight since World War II. And guess what? They got their ass kicked. They lost 3 F-18 jets against a country with no air defense and no air force. And there was also reports they almost lost an F-35 to Yemeni missiles. So this is not, this is U.S. is not able to, and there's also unwillingness to actually fully participate in a war against Iran at this point. So people just need to calm their horses and trust, the Iranian leadership, the Chinese leadership, and Russian leadership. You just gotta trust that they know what they're doing.
So now, as we talk about this situation, we know that these are attacks to weaken the global South and the rise of China and Russia and the BRICS nations. With that said, we see the weakest link of that is India, and you and I have been pointing out a certain double plays that India has been doing for the longest. What do you think the global South or the BRICS nation and the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, because it seems like sometimes that India was sabotaging an agenda in the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. Where does Russia and China stand on that, and how can they get India to come over and see that it's more beneficial to deal with us than it is to do this double play?
Well, I actually think the U.S. actions will eventually push India more into the BRIC side, because if you look at currently U.S. for some odd reason they decide they're gonna put the screw on the Indian government. They're still there's a tension between Canada and India is still persisting. This is all because India kind of continued to buy Russian oil and gas, and they refuse to participate in the Western sanction against Russia, even though they are kind of going along with United States on like containment in China and all that. But the fact is the empire, they cannot tolerate any kind of deviation. Even if you agree with me 99%, if you dare to deviate that 1%, that's unacceptable. And this is why India is being punished. And I think that's why now there's a lot of disillusionment with the U.S. alignment. That's finally coming through in on some parts of the Indian elite. I mean, they gotta realize they will never be accepted. They will never get accepted as equals by the U.S. in the Western dominated world order. And and on the Russia and China side, they rather have India on their side, even if not so reliable, but they rather have India in the forum where they can talk to India than to have India to be fully on the camp of US. This is why India is still, part of the BRICS, because India is still a big important country. You rather have India on your side, even if maybe not not so reliable. You still rather have them in your forum than to have them fully with the with the US and the NATO. So I think this will likely continue. And also people need to remember, BRICS is not NATO. Okay, NATO is a military alliance. BRICS is economic forum. It's a forum for economic cooperation. Although more people in the global south are now looking to BRICS as an alternative to United Nations and all these other Western dominated forum where where other countries, the country outside of the so-called international community have a voice. So that's still a developing story. We're gonna have to wait and see.
So, and let's stay here for 1 second, Carl. India will buy military equipment from the United States. It will buy military equipment from European nations, and it will buy military equipment from its colonizer, which is Britain. Yet, when China offers technology transfer and to help it independently, they look at China suspiciously when they only had one war against China, but Britain has stolen trillions and trillions of dollars from them. I mean, what? How can they compartmentalize? How can they be stuck in this paradigm?
It's because for them, Britain is kind of out. It's a distance. The beauty is created through distance. Now Britain is not no longer in India's hair all the time. Whereas they see China, because China's support through Pakistan, and because of India defeat in 1962 India-China border war. So they and on top of that, you know, people have to remember, even back in 1980s when I lived in China, back then India and China about on par in terms of capital per capita in GDP. and but in the last 30, 40 years, they just got completely lapped. And now, Chinese economy is about 5 times the size of Indian economy. And there's I think this is why India always envision China as some kind of competitor. China is their measuring stick. So they also try to match themselves against China. Like, this is why I say, like, India, if you just try to measure yourself against any other global South nations, you actually come out looking good. You actually come out looking pretty good. But don't compare yourself with China, because China is just outlier, right? You're just gonna like create a lot of opportunity for like copium and hopium, because just don't compare yourself with China. Compare yourself with other global South nations. India still did okay, still did relatively okay. And but I think it's because of that, because the psychologically, because of defeat in 1962 and the fact that China has overtaken India so much economically, plus China's support for Pakistan. And India has never gotten over like the trauma of partition, and never kind of they never resolved the issue with Pakistan. So they see China as kind of trying to contain India in Southeast Asia, because China has friendly relationship with Pakistan, with Bangladesh, with Nepal, with Sri Lanka, with Maldives. Basically, all the countries surrounding India, all the countries in India's neighborhood. But they gotta ask the question. The question they should ask is, why do we have tense relationship with our neighbors? What's making these guys have better relationship with China than with us? And so that's a question for Indian elites, Indian leadership to answer. But I think they should really just focus on their own internal development. I mean, I think they could definitely benefit from economic cooperation with China. There's a lot of Chinese tech firm. They were perfectly willing to invest in India startup scene. They were until they got kicked out. Like, for a while, Chinese investment monies was providing a lot of the capital for the Chinese tech startup, but that was not looking upon kindly by by Indian monopolies like the Abanis, and they are the ones who are funding the Indian government. They're the one funding BJP and Modi's government. So they got Modi to shut down all these Chinese competitors. So now, because they want to have continue their monopoly over Indian economy, and so Geo actually went to seek partnership with Zuckerberg, right?
Yeah.
And so it was just a wrapper around Facebook, and this is a problem with India. They have this same problem like is in the West. They have these oligarchs who are kind of they're not so much innovating as they're kind of these techno-feudal overlords who are collecting rents. They're basically rent seekers. They're collecting rents from the rest of the Indian population, and they're trying to kill any competition. This is many reasons that's impeding India cooperation with China. But China is always hold the door open. I think it will take time. It will take time for the Indian leadership to figure out, maybe they could benefit more if they rather work with China than work against China.
You spoke about the thing they did with Zuckerberg. You forgot about them pushing out Chinese bidders and for the Baidu system, and them accepting Starlink They just announced that they would be partnering with Starlink. And what more of a national security threat is that? Because we know that he is a shield for Western intelligence and all of these alphabet agencies in the West. So to me, it's like there is still a British holdover in their mind or something.
See what happened. What happened when the British left? Is they left the whole colonial bureaucracy, the colonial bureaucracy of British India, to the Indian bureaucrats who used to run that bureaucracy for them. So the system never got changed. It's just that the British got removed from the top, and all the Indian bureaucrats who were running the colonial system, they're still there. So I mean, like it's you know, a lot of people commented because India, they didn't experience a revolution, so it's basically the same British Raj system, populated by the, you know, all the bureaucrats. They just got a promotion, and they're still seeking acceptance from the West, validation, acceptance from the West. They think by, you know, by aligning them closer to US, UK, whatever, they will gain acceptance to the West-dominated club, right? I mean, that's really what it is, because a lot of these leadership of India, they're educated in the West. You know, they speak English, and their cultural orientation is toward the West. You know, and so this is where we are.
All right, in closing, let's for the last few minutes of the show, tell me your thoughts on what is taking place in the Ukrainian conflict, because this not only is the Iranian conflict, but it is also the Ukrainian conflict that has global ramifications for everybody.
Well, I think it's increasingly obvious right now that Trump is not able to wrap that conflict up. You know, like he said he's going to do it within 24 hours. Well, it's been many 24 hours by now, and I don't doubt his intention. You know, I don't doubt that he wants to wind down the Ukraine conflict, but the institutional vested interest in the NATO that wanted to continue to contain Russia, that instinct is not gone. And there's Trump, like before I said, you know, Trump is, if he's not part of the deep state, then he's not going to win against the deep. He's never going to win against the deep state. The deep state is still running the American empire, and the logic of the deep state that dictates, right? They have to continue all these conflict in order to justify all these careers, all the jobs, all the fundings, all the money continually feeding the military industrial intelligence complex. So that means like, even though Trump, if he really wanted to end Ukraine conflict, he can just as simply as turning off American support, turning off the ammunitions and weapons sending off to Ukraine, because there's consuming a lot of resources every day, and without the American monetary and military support, Ukraine front would not hold. Whereas on the Russia side, I think Russia side, they have come to a realization that you know, they are the ones who's winning the battlefield right now. They are dictating the terms. You know, they're not gonna. This is why they're not abiding any kind of imposed ceasefire by the West, by the NATO. Russia is gonna set its own terms on how they want to wrap up the conflict. And I do believe Russia do eventually want to wrap up the conflict. You know, but now it's going to be on Russia's terms, and there's nothing NATO can do about it, because they have already thrown against everything. They already thrown everything against Russia. Nothing worked, and so Russia will probably be preoccupied with the Ukraine for the immediate future. They're going to try to bring more overwhelming force against Ukrainian front. You know, after U.S. moved their air defense system from Ukraine to Israel. Now they're hitting Kiev really hard, and nobody's even paying attention because all the because the U.S. has a very short attention
Right.
span. Because now everything is concentrated on Middle East. Russia have a free hand in Ukraine, and so it's their conflict to wrap up now.
And what does it look like for the EU, who continues to try to pass another package of sanctions? They have little resources. They are alienating the one country that wanted to invest in them, which is China. And they have been double backstabbed by the United States, tripling the price of liquefied natural gas to them. I mean, what is their position when all of this stuff turns over?
The EU leaders are so cut, man. They're. I mean, look at their response to the latest war with Iran. If you read their tweets, it's like this from the same template. All of them say Iran is not allowed to have a nuclear program. Israel have a right to defend itself. It's like somebody sent them the same memo, and they just like copy and paste. And like these guys are not. They're robots. Their only job is to regurgitate Washington's line. This is why they're in the position they are. This is why they're being put in their leadership position, because they can be trusted to carry out Washington's policy in Europe. And I don't see that change anytime soon. I mean, who voted von der Leyen, right? Who voted for von der Leyen? Like, what kind of authority does she has? I mean, what is the source of her legitimacy? But it doesn't matter. She's there because she's Washington's woman in EU, and that will continue to be the case until the European leader grow a spine. But I don't see that happening anytime soon.
But don't you think that the economies will implode before that happens? Because I mean, the debt burden is continually growing.
Where it's like the boiling frog, right? Right now, they are the economy continue to deteriorate, yet they are all sounding like PR releases from Washington. But it's gonna take time. It's gonna take time. I think people are. One of the things I used to say, China rose so fast that people haven't adjusted to the reality yet. China's a lot of people's mind. China, their picture of China is still like 19th century. Coolie hats, rice paddies, water buffalo. Maybe bicycles and mouse suit and bicycles. So they have to at some point. They will be forced to come to grip with the reality. It just there's so much inertia. There's so much. There's a whole capture of European institution by the Atlanticist faction. I just don't see. You know what? Any kind of right now, the pushback is actually happening. This is why there's a rise of right-wing movement in Europe, because the NATO would not tolerate any real opposition, right? So instead, you have all these like fake opposition, but it's these right-wing parties that's blaming the problem on the immigrants, on the colored folks, like anybody but themselves, and even the ones that do get into power through these kind of right-wing populism, they get absorbed right up to the NATO blob. I'm talking about people like Meloni, right? I mean, like she before she gets elected, she will say, "Oh yeah, well, Europe need to be more independent," blah blah blah. But right now, she's hobnobbing with Macron and all these. It's not going to change. It's not going to change. Europe is continue its decline. U.S. is continue its decline, and you know what? I'm okay with that. I'm gonna continue to sit here and laugh my ass off at the declining of the empire. So that's where I am.
Once again, Carl, you hit it out the park, man. Thank you for joining me on this edition of the Red Pill Diaries, my brother. Thank you.
Thank you, Rishi. Anytime.
All right, I'll talk to you later, Carl. Thank you so much. Everybody, listen, tomorrow morning we'll have journalists. I have so many guests coming on. Let me think real quick. We'll have journalists, Kiji Noy, geopolitical analyst Kiji Noy at 10 a.m. Eastern time. Thursday, we're supposed to have, it's just a host of other people coming on. We're supposed to have Friday. I know Friday for a fact we're supposed to have Mike Mihaljevic. Next week we're going to have Alex Craner. We've got Brian Berletic coming on. As a matter of fact, let me look real quick, and I can tell you the list of what's coming on. And we're supposed to have Thursday. We're supposed to have Turkish journalist and author Tariq Amar on. So you guys got to keep coming, and please hit the like button and subscribe. Tell others about it. We got to beat this algorithm because it's killing me. The algorithm is killing me, taking subscribers and not sending out things or whatever. We're supposed to be upwards of 100, 200,000 subscribers, and they're killing me. So I can only do this if you give me a chance and you help me out with this. So subscribe to all of the platforms. They're in the description, and they're also in the chat, also at the top of the chat. I want to thank each and every one of you for giving me your time today. I want to say do right by others, not because there's some material gain or because some accolades behind it. Do right because it's the right thing to do, because even when no one else is watching you, God Almighty is watching you. And as my mother always says, God sits high, but he looks low. Now, this has been a double portion today. We've done a show earlier with former Assistant Secretary of the U.S. Treasury, Paul Craig Roberts. If you haven't seen it, go check it out on the thing. We've got some Patreon and channel member streams coming up, so join that. It's going to be question and answers. Go over to the empowerment of truth.locals.com and join so we can start having question and answers and talking to you guys back and forth. I want you all to know that your time means everything, because once it's used up, you better make sure you get an equal or greater value in time. So I love you all, but know that the love that I have for you will always pale in comparison to the love that God has for you. Until we next speak again, stay strong, stay true. But above all things, remember to stay righteous. Hey, mama, your baby boy loves you more than life. Deuces, everybody. Thank you all. We're out of here. Peace.
Told you to walk away. That was my first and last mistake. I'm blue without your face. But what can I do? 'Cause I'm just a sinking ship, and you're just a